welcome to this discussant interview at the APVA Awards 2023. I'm T-Code, APVA's creative partner. I also work as a full-time voiceover artist and podcaster, and I'm more than delighted to co-host the session with Oiza. Hi, Oiza.
Hi, Tico. Hello, everyone. And of course, welcome to the interview session. My name is Oiza. I am APVA's Programs and Partnership Manager. I'm also a broadcaster and a voiceover artist. And it's a pleasure to be here having this discussant interview with Tico and, of course, our guest.
Okay, talking about the discussant interview, we'll be looking at the topic Podcast Production 101. Tips and tricks for creating high quality audio content. Interestingly, I'm a podcaster and Oiza is a podcaster, and I'm sure a couple of people watching right now are podcasters. So this is going to be a great opportunity for us to learn more about podcasting. Okay, so if you're a podcaster watching this right now, of course, you're in the best place. And in this session, we'll be talking about aspects like recording, editing, sound design, post-production, and just the essentials and the knowledge and technique for producing professional and engaging audio content. And our guest for this session is Steve Mutua, a podcast producer, songwriter, music producer, and the founder of Blueberry Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Steve Mutua. Hi, Steve.
Thank you so much. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Asante sana. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Steve.
So just to add to all that Tico has said, this session is for you as long as you're a podcaster. It doesn't matter if you have all of the equipment or gadgets. As long as you have a podcast platform or you run a podcast, then you want to pay attention to everything we will be discussing today with Steve Mutua. All right, let's get started.
All right, then. So we're talking about podcast production, and Steve, of course, being a producer, a podcast producer, you've been in this industry for quite a while. You understand what it takes to produce high quality audio content. But before we talk about producing high quality audio content, some people are already producing audio content, but it's not high quality enough. And that's because there are certain mistakes that they make while doing this. So let's start with the common mistakes podcasters make when it comes to audio recording and how they can be avoided. From your years of experience and from the things that you've observed so far in the podcast industry in Africa, what would you say are the common mistakes that podcasters are making when it comes to producing quality audio, and how can these mistakes be avoided?
So the first mistake I usually see is the mic technique. A lot of the podcasters have really poor mic technique. It's it usually varies the volume levels, and the explosive sounds are usually amplified, especially the P's and B's. So the first one I'd say it's poor mic technique. And I'd also say a lot of podcasters are really overlooking the background noise. So by overlooking the background noise, it really degrades the audio quality. So another common mistake is neglecting the audio levels. And the producers, a lot of the podcast producers right now are not keeping an eye on the audio levels. And some of them, it's either too low or too high, which may lead to distortion. And once it's too low, it can lead to weak signals. And now you have to do much more work in post-production so that it can get to that quality, of which it's really hard if it's not recorded right. Another mistake is improper room acoustics. So the rooms where the podcasters are having their sessions in, a lot of them have poor acoustics, which leads to echo, reverb, and unwanted sound echoes or noise. So to minimize these issues, podcasters might consider maybe choosing spaces with minimal background noise and proper room acoustics. So those are some of the common issues I've seen a lot of podcasters going through.
So in a case where a podcaster has made these mistakes, like you've pointed out, how can they effectively edit those episodes, right, to maintain a natural and engaging flow, seeing that the mistake has been done? How can they effectively edit it to either correct those mistakes?
So I think it needs to start with preparation. How you prepare for the session, even before recording, it will determine the final output. So before you start the recording process, you actually need to get the right equipment and know what you're actually going to talk about in the episode. So how you maintain the natural and engaging flow in the podcast episodes. The first way is by removing unwanted content. This is editing out the mistakes, removing the awkward pauses, the excessive ums and ahs. Another way is ensuring that the producer is paying attention to the audio quality during the recording. This will enable them to get the right levels so that the final output on post so that the final output has good clarity in it. Another way is maintaining authenticity, making sure that the conversation, you preserve the authenticity and the naturalness of the conversation, and avoid also excessive editing, which might make the podcast seem overly polished or scripted. Then you can also, another way is by paying attention to pace and energy. So you can consider the pace and energy of the episodes during the editing. So for those parts that you feel lack energy, you can try maybe add some music, background effects, so that the listener, you can maintain the listener's engagement throughout the whole episode, and they don't get kind of bored some parts that have low energy. The other way I think is during the editing phase, making sure that the transitions are seamless and smooth. So don't make those rough cuts. Use crossfades, fades, music transitions to indicate a shift in focus or a segment change. Make sure that the overall vibe of the podcast is smooth. That will really make your podcast stand out. Yeah.
So what are some of the tools or softwares you would recommend for a podcaster to carry out all of these editing and post-production processes?
The first one I'd recommend is Adobe Audition. That's what I use. And then there's Cubase. And then these work well with Windows. These are compatible with Windows. And then it really depends on what you're trying to achieve and the quality you're going for. But I'd recommend Adobe Audition, Audacity, Cubase, and Reaper for the podcast editing and mixing, and also for recording.
In your opinion, which of these tools would you say is user-friendly, like easy to use?
I'd suggest the use of Adobe Audition, since the interface is really user-friendly, and it has a lot more tools for the mixing process. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve. So there's this question I'd like to ask you. As a podcaster myself, I have noticed that there are times when you produce an episode and you produce another episode, but there seems to be a lack of consistency in that production quality. It's probably the volumes that vary across different episodes, or even the mic quality or the background ambience. So what are the tips that you can suggest that we use or pay attention to ensure consistency across the different podcast episodes or the multiple podcast episodes that we release as podcasters?
Some of my recommendations will be, the first one will be selecting a quiet room, a room that has minimal background noise. The second one will be choosing the right mic, knowing the kind of quality you want to go for and the recording environment, understanding it, and choosing a mic that will be able to give you that quality that you're going for. So if it's outdoor, you know that the sound, the wind, you need to put all these factors in the kind of mic you're going for. So if it's outdoor, you definitely wouldn't use a condenser microphone. And if it's somewhere where there's a lot of background noise, you know that you'd go for something like a dynamic microphone as opposed to the condenser microphone. Another thing is using microphone pop filters, getting rid or reducing those plosive sounds such as P, B, T, those kind of sounds. And then the other one is choosing the right software and the right settings. That will help you be consistent in the final output.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much, Steve. I think, I mean, you've said a lot when it comes to the tips and the tricks for creating high quality audio content. And I'm guessing there are probably some things we didn't ask, but you'd love to chip in. So if there's anything else that you think we should pay attention to as podcast creators and producers, you're free to add those into the conversation.
There's also minimizing the noise on post-production. So a lot of creators just go directly into the mixing and mastering without first cleaning the noise. So that's something that they might want to take into consideration. You first remove all the background noise before you get into the mixing and mastering process, so that you get the final product that has good quality. And then the other thing is maintaining consistent recording audio levels. You don't want the volume to be too high or too low at different points of the recording. So maintaining consistent recording levels will really enable you to get that good polished sound. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Steve Mutua. And we trust that you enjoyed listening to or watching this discussant interview at the APVA Awards 2023. We just spoke with Steve Mutua, a podcast producer, songwriter, music producer, and founder of Blueberry Africa. That's where we wrap it up on Podcast Production 101, tips and tricks for creating high quality audio content. My name is Oiza, APVA's Programs and Partnership Manager. I'm also a voiceover artist, a broadcaster, and a podcaster. And of course, I still have my co-host,
T-Code, and it's a pleasure to be a co-host on this discussant interview. I am also a podcaster and a voiceover artist, and I am APVA's creative partner. And now let's get back to the rest of APVA Awards 2023.
Bye.
Thank you so much.